Hey guys, welcome to yet another video. So today we're going over some exciting news. Xbox has announced some of the official specs for the Xbox One X. Let's get right into it. So Microsoft has actually gone ahead and announced most of the specs, I think if not all the specs, of the Xbox One X, and I gotta say, most of it is very impressive, especially compared to the current consoles, of course. I mean, that's a given. We weren't expecting the next generation to remain stagnant, right? Hopefully that was the case. But other than that, it's very important that we actually get to know what the specs are. The new consoles are right around the corner, expected to launch later this year. The PlayStation 5 and Xbox One X have Xbox Series X. They definitely need to work on the naming. One thing I will admit Xbox needs to work on. All these names are just so confusing. Anyway, back to the point. So Xbox has announced the official specs for the Xbox Series X, Microsoft, whatever. So let's go ahead and go over them because there's quite a bit to cover. I've got the notes right here from the official Microsoft website, so we'll go over them one by one. So first up, going over the custom next generation processor that Microsoft has designed for the Xbox Series X. It's going to use AMD's latest Zen 2 and RDNA 2 architectures, pretty impressive overall, which is set to deliver 4 times the processing power of the current Xbox One and enabling developers to leverage 12 teraflops, you heard right, 12 teraflops of GPU, which is insane, of course, based on current consoles. So it's not compared to PCs. PCs are on a level of their own, let's be honest. But for current consoles, 12 teraflops is a lot of graphics processing power, which is twice that of the Xbox One X and more than 8 times the original Xbox One. If that doesn't sound impressive to you, I don't know what will. For current consoles to offer this level of power is very impressive. And I guess it doesn't come as a surprise, the Xbox Series X is actually a little bigger than current consoles from what I've seen, right? It's almost like a box instead of the usual rectangular shape the previous generation consoles have traditionally gone with, which is pretty impressive. I definitely like the design, something a little bit different, almost looks like a mini PC tower, so I'm cool with it. Right, next up, we have that Microsoft has designed a special variable rate shading, or VRS for short. This new patented form of VRS empowers developers to more efficiently utilize the full power of the Xbox Series X. So what does that mean for consumers or gamers, right? So rather than spending GPU cycles uniformly to every single pixel on the screen, they are able to prioritize individual effects on specific game characters or important environmental objects. This technique results in more stable frame rates and higher resolution with no impact on the final image quality. So basically, in layman's terms, what that means is they can focus the processing power on specific things rather than basically the whole image all at once, which then allows them to target specific things to use the GPU on rather than the whole image. So basically they're using less power, which basically in turn gives more stable frame rates, possibly also helps the machine remain pretty cool, so that way it's not being overpowered, right? Having to process all this information all at once. So I think overall, it sounds pretty impressive, especially with the amount of power the Xbox Series X has. Plus, on top of that, add this VRS technology. I think we'll be seeing some really impressive images across the board, especially maybe with games that don't really require that much power. Them having the ability to really emphasize what the system should be focusing on, I think will definitely lead to some impressive performance. I can't wait to see what that will look like on the final product. And then next up, I think it comes as no surprise, this is currently a pretty big thing, even in currently right now in PC gaming, right? So we have DirectX ray tracing. So ray tracing is pretty much a big deal because it takes lighting effects pretty much to the next level. So I've also heard the PS5 supposedly is supposed to also have this feature, right? So ray tracing will allow games to look even more realistic by adding very realistic lighting effects. So if you're currently impressed with how lighting looks today in current generation gaming, this will basically make your jaw drop, because the games that actually use this technology, I haven't had the chance to use it myself. My PC unfortunately is not strong enough, but from the videos I've seen, it looks very impressive. So if the Xbox and the PS5 actually end up using this, which does seem to be the case, right, as is confirmed by this information, I can't wait to see what that looks like in person. Now, one other thing though is the Xbox Series X is supposed to also support 8K gaming, which I know is a pretty big deal. Thing about it is, come on, how many consumers actually have 8K resolution TVs? Not a lot. So unless you have like an 8K monitor, for those of you who game in 8K, not a lot of people will be able to take advantage of that. If we see the current generation move on to 8K resolution TVs, then maybe they'll be able to take advantage of that. I don't see that happening anytime soon, since currently most consumers don't even have a 4K TV. To make the jump to 8K gaming seems a little unrealistic at the moment, but still, it's a nice feature to have in case it does end up happening sooner rather than later. That being said though, the Xbox Series X will also feature the ability to play games at 120 frames per second, which is insane. Kind of the same thing, we'll have to see how current generation TVs with their current refresh rates take advantage of this additional processing power, and how games will look like running on current generation TVs. Of course, the current generation is supposed to last quite a bit. I think the generation usually lasts 5, maybe 8 years at most usually. So that gives, especially with the rapid pace technology is currently moving at, I think it's currently a pretty good opportunity to see what we're able to see over the next few years. Okay, so some of the quality of life features that the Xbox Series X will include is SSD storage. I guess that's a given, nothing really surprising there, so I'll go ahead and skip on to the next thing. Quick resume. So if you're not familiar with quick resume, most of the consoles have some form of this. Basically, let's say for example a PS5, right, with rest mode, then being able to resume right where you left off. Same thing with the Xbox One X, right, or Xbox One in general. If you shut off the Xbox, usually it stays in rest mode unless you actually manually power it off. And when you boot it up, you're able to just go ahead and resume right where you left off. Where the Xbox Series X actually takes us to the next level, based on what we see here, is the ability to resume multiple games at once. You can pretty much leave multiple games on standby and actually resume each one individually. Kind of like a PC, right? Where you leave multiple programs running and you're able to kind of switch between all of them. Pretty much the exact same thing. All right, next up we have that the Xbox Series X will also feature dynamic latency input, or DLI. Basically, they're working on improving latency or lag, right? So basically, based on the summary they give us here, the first step they took was basically reducing any latency with the Xbox wireless controller. Honestly, I haven't seen any huge latency issues with the Xbox controller. I think it was pretty much fine, but hey, I'm not gonna complain about any sort of improvement they make in the current generation technology. So basically, dynamic latency input is a new feature which synchronizes input immediately with what is displayed. Controls are even more precise and responsive. So yeah, like I said, I haven't had a huge issue with latency on the current generation controllers or anything like that. Even on my TV, so I have the LG OLED, right? And it supposedly has quite a bit of lag. Honestly, I haven't had a huge issue with lag. Usually when playing some fighting games, I will put it into game mode, but usually for regular gaming, like racing games, adventure, like The Witcher, for example, or anything like that, I've been able to use the standard modes just fine, which I actually prefer because they look a lot better than the gaming mode. But yeah, like I said, not gonna complain about any sort of improvement they make in the current generation. I guess maybe it will look a lot better when you actually see it in person. Maybe something you just don't notice is there until you actually notice the difference. All right, and as far as technology goes, one of the last mentions they make is that the Xbox Series X will be using HDMI 2.1, which is obviously a step up from HDMI 2.0, which does allow for better processing, basically image processing between the Xbox and your TV, especially if you have a TV that supports HDMI 2.1. You should be able to notice the improvement, and this does seem to be, or play at least, quite a big part in that latency reduction. So if you do want to make sure you take advantage of that mode, you want to make sure your TV supports HDMI 2.1, which most TVs are supporting nowadays. So make sure that your TV supports that. Like I said, if it is something that you're looking forward to, maybe it's not now is the time to save up, while you also save up for the Xbox Series X. All right, and then lastly, basically the last announcement that they make, which isn't anything new, this was brought up before, but they basically confirmed that the Xbox Series X will have backwards compatibility with previous Xbox consoles. So that's a pretty big deal, because if you have quite a large library of older Xbox games for the previous consoles, and you don't want to have all these consoles connected, unless of course you're a collector, nothing wrong with that, but for simplicity and minimalism sake, the Xbox Series X will allow you to play all those games on one console, which is great. Now, one other thing though to note is that some games, basically Cyberpunk 2077 has announced that they will be including the Xbox Series X version of the game for free if you purchase the Xbox One version. So if you were to upgrade later on, then you basically have a game for your library right off the bat without having to make an additional purchase. Now this is a big deal, because I think most of the current generations have abused the re-release of games for newer consoles. So having a developer that supports the consumer in a way where they're willing to give you the upgraded version of the game for free just for purchasing any of the current iterations of the game is a really big deal, and I really hope that other developers jump on board with this. I mean, who wouldn't want to not have to spend any more money on games that you like, right? If you purchase the game once, I mean, think of it as an update. Why would you want to purchase the game again? And I know, like I said, it's a big deal, and if more developers jump on this, I think it would be great for the gaming industry as a whole. But yeah, guys, that's basically what I wanted to discuss today. So let me know your thoughts. Are you interested? Are you excited for the Xbox Series X? Are you excited to see what PlayStation has to announce in the near future? Because I know I'm also a big fan of PlayStation, right? I'm a big fan of all three companies. So I'm excited to see what PlayStation has in store to compete with the Xbox. I think that's going to be pretty exciting. Although, right, in a perfect world, we would just have one or two consoles and call it a day, maybe Nintendo, and then one for PlayStation and Xbox together. But I think competition overall is really good to help innovation move forward. So yeah, pretty excited. Can't wait for E3 and see the different presentations these companies have, even though some of them aren't attending, unfortunately, E3 this year. But yeah, guys, please remember to like and subscribe if you like my video. It'll definitely help support the channel. I can't wait to create more content for you guys. So make sure you leave your support. Until next time, see you later.